Oh, hey! Welcome to $5 Gaming. Now before I start, let's talk about how to turn me against a game before I even buy or play it. And for that example, we're going to use today's $2 target, Heatseeker.
Let's see, generic title? Check. Cover art virtually identical to all other games of this genre? Check. 4 small screenshots, only one of which is actually gameplay? Check. A plain white black text side label that gives me bad flashbacks of Iridium runners? Check. And last but not least, the Codemasters logo on the front.
Okay, maybe that last one isn't very clear. Let me explain.
Codemasters is a British company that has been making video games since 1986, for platforms ranging from the ZX Spectrum then to the PS3 now, releasing dozens of titles in the process.
And the weird part about that is, I can't name any of them. But you know what, let's be fair. What games has Codemasters made? Okay, crap. Oh, crap. Okay, we're getting better. Almost there. Huh. You know, I think we finally turned the corner with— oh my god! Oh! Why did you show me that?
Aside from the games, what also makes Codemasters such a huge target is their slogan. At first it was absolutely brilliant, and that evolved into the barely more modest genius at play.
So does that mean they're smart enough to play other developers' games instead of their own? Either way, it looks egotistical and kind of idiotic to brand yourself indirectly as some sort of video game Albert Einstein when you compare the Codemasters game library to anybody else.
Moving on, we take on the role of a rookie pilot under the codename Downtown.
This could be real bad, Downtown.
Okay, Downtown, listen up.
He's supposedly a cocky guy, or at least that's what the instruction book told me, but I honestly can't tell because for the entire game, he never talks.
Wait a minute. Cocky, young, raw talent for fighting? I know who this guy is! He's a scout from Team Fortress 2.
I got it! Fire! What, am I gonna have to defend this thing by myself? Hey, a lot of good that gun did ya! I'm a freaking blur here! Aw, crap.
Heatseeker only has 2 game modes, Campaign and Mission, both single player. You'd think they might include some kind of multiplayer like an Ace Combat or Star Fox to give a semblance of replay value, but hey, who am I to question the geniuses at play?
And no, it's not horribly unfair to compare Heatseeker to Star Fox because half the characters in Heatseeker are just like Star Fox cast members. Only once or twice in the entire game do you ever see the characters in Heatseeker on screen outside of their plane, and they're constantly flying different planes through each mission, so having only their few little clips of dialogue in the game to go by to try and develop a personality for them makes it perfectly natural to try and draw parallels between them and an already existing cast of characters.
For example, the Ace Fighters are Starwolf, Eyeball is Peppy Hair, Divot is Slippy, which makes sense because Slippy's first voice consisted mostly of the word divot, and all the commanders are slightly constipated General Peppers.
Their vessels are located here, parked in the heart of Mount Cerberus. It's a semi-active volcano, which doesn't sound like a bright idea, but who the hell knows what they're thinking.
There's Rumbler, the Spearhead Guy, Picasso... Wait a minute, Picasso?
Look, I'm Picasso!
The saddest part is the instruction book doesn't even use a full page to describe the 6 most prominent characters, giving barely 2 sentences about their backgrounds and their non-existent personalities. And yet, I learned more about them from those profiles than I did playing through the entire game. For example, it never seems to come up that Divot got his nickname because he crashed an F-18 into a golf course.
You'd think they might mention that. Or how Divot should be court-martialed, in jail, or at least barred from ever flying again for doing something so costly and stupid! He crashed a plane in a golf course! How is he still flying?
Typically I'd start showing you gameplay at this point, but I'm gonna delay the inevitable by sitting at the loading screen. Yes, there's a reason for this. It's not the dead silence, it's not the absence of any color besides blue, it's not even the crappy digital layout of half a plane trying in vain to look interesting. It's that the load times are terrible. even the shortest missions take a good 40 seconds to load, and sometimes it takes a full minute before the game wakes up and starts the action. In fact, I'm deliberately dragging out this part of the narration to include the full loading time. Okay, you know what? I have better things I could be doing with my time. Actually, let's go back to the plot while the game is still loading. The booklet mentions every major plot point and location for each set of missions, including how the dictator of the make-believe nation called the Oligarchy of Kamcha has stopped international talks and won't allow weapon inspections by the United Nations. The International Council.
Codemasters, there's art imitating life, and then there's just plain copying it.
Hey, it's done the— Oh, come on! That's it, I'm skipping ahead. There are extra cutscenes leading into each mission that go over the situation you're in and the general objectives. Even though there's a full mission briefing beforehand that explains all of this, complete with the most unconvincing news anchor I've ever seen.
Today, the International Council approved Operation Dragon's Den, a full-scale assault on the oligarchy of Kamcha, set to depose the dictator general Bei Zhongtai.
This just in, my spine is made of string cheese. You can try skipping the cutscenes by hitting select, but it causes the game to stop entirely to load what comes next, so it takes the same amount of time to skip the cutscene as it does to watch it. Since the game wants us to look at it, I might as well mention that the graphics are average, about what can be expected from a Wii-based PS2 port, but it seems like Codemasters got lazy with the map designs. There are no missions that take place on the mainland. Every mission is either near a set of islands or in the middle of the ocean. No, I'm not counting the Antarctica missions as mainland. Also, there are times where you'll beat a mission and see your plane in the background flying into the scenery. Now that's just lazy codemastering. How the game controls will depend on what control style you've selected. Arcade is the basic hold left or right, move left or right style, while Professional forces the player to bank to either side and pull up or down to turn. It's more realistic and offers more freedom of movement, but it takes some getting used to if you don't play a lot of flight sims. The left analog stick pitches and banks the plane, while the right analog stick controls the speed, of which there are 3: slow, fast, and goodbye sound barrier. Triangle looks back, R1 and L1 fire missiles or bombs and machine guns, although the latter tends to be very inaccurate and overheat really fast. It's not that big of an issue because every fighter has infinite ammo for all of their weapons, although the missiles and bombs reload at different rates depending on their type. Oh, right! Each plane has different weapon packs with different missile and bomb types and ranges. Some are short, some are long, some are intended for ground targets, some are just for air units. Using the wrong weapon type, say an air-to-ground missile against a fighter jet, means not being able to lock onto the target, assuming that it can lock onto targets. Then again, you could try holding X to zoom in and manually aim at your enemies.
Don't try this too often. The only time I got this to work, particularly against an air unit, was against a very slow-moving bomber, which I was directly behind, with the throttle all the way down.
Bombs and torpedoes work a bit differently. A rough blast radius as well as the trajectory of the bomb appears, and it feels like doing a bombing run on the moon because the bombs take a long time to drop, even when you're just flying 50 or 60 feet over the target.
Physics need not apply. So anyway,
the game consists of completing a series of objectives one by one as they're radioed in by the commanding officer. Each mission takes about 10 to 15 minutes to finish and has anywhere from 4 to 13 objectives to complete, although there tend to be 3 different types of objectives used over and over: destroy Object A, protect Object B, or identify Object C. The ID objectives don't show up often though, so it's more like 2.5 objective types.
most of the objectives in the game involve destroying targets, but a little over a third of the objectives in this game are protection related. And as for protection objectives, well... I don't like them.
It's not so much that there are protection objectives, although I hate protection objectives, but how poorly distributed they are. In the last mission set, there were only a few of them, but in the first and third mission sets, a little over half of the objectives are protection related. Also, most of them don't play like protection missions. Instead of staying with the object you're protecting, it's better to abandon it entirely and go after incoming enemies. They almost never go after downtown during these objectives, no matter how many holes he blows in their crafts, so it's more like a kill everything in a short amount of time objective.
I forgot why I'm complaining about this. One moment. Okay. Protection objectives, run away from what you're protecting. I don't know, let's move on.